Welcome and good evening. My name is Mario Pena, and I'm with Raise Your Hand Texas. I'm the Regional Advocacy Director of the Greater Austin area. The future of Texas, our economy, community, and citizenry depends on how well we prepare our students today. All students deserve a level playing field and an equal access to quality public education. We believe our public schools represent our greatest hope for educating and preparing all 5+ million students in Texas. Raise Your Hand Texas is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that was founded 18 years ago to advance public education. We are coordinating a series of candidate forums across Texas in both the weeks leading up to the November 5th election and election day. So we all know we do not endorse candidates, and we provide opportunities like tonight's event, to help voters learn more about candidates on their ballots before they cast their votes. All candidates from House District 52 were invited to participate in this event. We thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and join us to learn more about what the candidates have to say about public education. I would now like to introduce our moderator for tonight's forum, Heather Sheffield. Heather has been an advocate for public education for several years, leading many other of her colleagues and peers to the Capitol to encourage our representatives to support public education efforts. Thank you, Heather, for serving as our moderator tonight. Let's give Heather a round of applause.
Thank you so much, Mario. Good evening. Welcome to the Taylor ISD. I am delighted to moderate the evening's candidate forum. Before we begin, let's review a few important forum rules. Please silence your cell phones or electronics as a matter of courtesy. Our goal from our public education candidate forum is to create a civil environment of mutual respect in which candidates have the opportunity to communicate clearly and audience members have the opportunity to learn more about both issues and the candidates. With that in mind, our rules for the event as follows. There they are. I'm sure you're going to be a very lovely group and blah, blah, blah. So please respond directly to the content rather than the question posed. We previously shared the House District 45 candidate forum questions with all candidates. 52. You will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, 2 minutes to answer the question, and 2 minutes for a closing statement. If I do not feel you have clearly responded to the question, I may ask clarifying follow-up questions and offer 1 minute for your response. Please refrain from referencing other candidates' past statements or voting records. We want you to use your time to allow those present to learn more about you, not your take on your opponent. Keep to the stated time limits for responses and respect the timekeeper, Jaleesa's request. If I feel that a candidate is not respecting these rules, which I'm sure will be an issue, I will interrupt them and redirect the conversation to the subject matter at hand. Rules for you all, the audience members. Please maintain an atmosphere of respect. Audience members are asked to refrain from applause, outbursts, or other signs of approval or disapproval during the entirety of the forum. We will have the opportunity to show our appreciation to the candidates at the conclusion of the forum. Audience outbursts will not be tolerated. I'm sure we won't have that. Audience members who engage in outbursts during the forum will be asked to leave. Please do not attempt to distribute campaign materials anywhere other than the designated candidate table. Campaign materials can only be distributed at the candidate table. No campaign materials may be placed on seats or handed out to attendees entering or exiting the auditorium. We ask that our audience members help maintain the neutrality of the space by refraining from wearing campaign t-shirts. I think we're good there. We welcome your tweets and social media posts for this event, and we would appreciate you tagging at Raise Your Hand Texas or at RYH Texas or at RYHT_greater ATX. So let's review the forum logistics. This event is being filmed and will be available on the Raise Your Hand Texas website within the next few days. Please do not record your own. Photos will be taken if the camera is not silent. Please not use flash, but you may take pictures. Questions this evening focus on the issue of public education and have been previously prepared by Raise Your Hand Texans. They have been provided to all the candidates in advance. So, enough. That candidate tonight for Texas House District 52, it's here tonight. I will give a few minutes to do opening remarks, 2 minutes. So go ahead and our timekeeper, Jaleesa, will read signs to let us know how much time is left. The yellow sign indicates the out of seconds remaining, and the red sign can score back. Yeah, they say them and then up. Candidates are asked to stop promptly when your time is up. All right, please move on directly to the question and talk about your own position. All right. So, thank you for being here tonight, Jenny. You have 2 minutes to go ahead and give your opening remarks. Okay. Hi, neighbors. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you all for being here. It's such a great group, from trustees to educators to my neighbors and people that I've known for a really long time. I appreciate you taking time out for your evening to come here and listen to me. And what you're going to find and what you know is that you have a choice in candidates, and I hope that you choose me. I'm a product of public schools, very proud product of public schools, and we are a public school family with 2 young kids who go to our local schools and a husband who works there. We are so proud to be a part of that system and proud to support it, but we know the challenges that come with it deeply. We know those challenges, and I'm committed to helping be part of solving those challenges. And that's important to me, and it's important to our community as well, because we know that's a part of our community. So I know it's personal to our community, it's personal to me, and that's the only way we're going to move forward with who we are as Texans and as America. We'll begin to answer you general questions regarding the 88th legislative session as a whole. Here's some background. During the 89th legislative session, there will be a lot of familiar topics in public education: school funding, teacher workforce, the growing special education funding shortfall that is now up to $1.9 billion, the ongoing discussion of our assessment and accountability system, and of course, the school choice or voucher debate. Unfortunately, all of these major policy issues ended up stalling in the last legislative session and the 4 called subsequent special sessions. At a time when inflation has increased by 22% since 2019, more than half of our schools have either adopted deficit budgets or cut funding for vital programs. Our teachers are currently paid $8,800 below the national average, and our per-student funding ranks 46th, over $4,000 below the national average. Lawmakers will have over $21 billion available coming into the next regular session. This includes the $4.5 billion the legislature set aside for public education funding and a new school choice program last session. So here's the question. The Texas legislators file over 1,000 public education-related bills every session, and this next session will be no different. What do you think the most important education policy issues are going into the 89th regular session, and how will these help your schools and students in your district? Yeah, I think you started by hitting the nail on the head by saying right now funding is the top issue in our district, because that trickles down to all the other things that we are seeing. Our school districts are passing budget deficits or break even, and they're having to already make really deep cuts. And as a result of those deep cuts, that puts strain on our teachers, right? Larger classroom sizes or not as many resources as they have. And so that impacts our teacher retention. And so it's not just about having a balanced budget, it's impacting our teacher retention and our educational outcomes. Now, we've done a really great job here in Texas with our kids. I applaud y'all with the resources that you have, but there is no way we can cut anymore. I don't see it. You're at a breaking point. So funding is the absolute fundamental issue going into this next session. And honestly, we can't just keep waiting for each legislative session to hopefully get an increase in our allocation. So looking at how we can pin that to inflation, because the public school funding shouldn't be political, right? This is an essential service for Texans, essential service for our students. So playing political games each session, it should just be unnecessary. We need to take care of this business. And during the last legislative session, almost every major education policy stalled during the debate over school choice and voucher programs in our state. There has obviously been a lot of political debate during the interim regarding this issue. How do you envision participating in the voucher discussion this legislative session?
Yeah, so I think there's no doubt that I am opposed to the voucher scams. I fully support our public schools and oppose anything that would harm them in any way, that would harm our students as well. And so what we've seen from vouchers or educational savings accounts or whatever the new term is for Texas policymakers, what we've seen in other states is that it's not fiscally responsible. It's not. That doesn't align with my values and our values as a district. It also doesn't give better student outcomes. And that doesn't align with my values or our district's, values either. So I am completely against them. I will fully advocate for our public schools for the resources that they need because they are the ones that are in all of our communities right now. How will I navigate those conversations? Because, Greg Abbott has said cancel your vacations. This is a top priority for me. And so I know that it is going to be difficult, especially going in there as a freshman, but I have a lot of allies, right? It's Republicans and Democrats fighting against this, and I have all of y'all as my allies, and, just going in there with a lot of facts and with a balanced mind. And, it's, like I said, it's personal and logical, and we're going to do the best that we can, but I will never vote yes on a bill that has vouchers to pass attached to it.
Prior to the last session, Governor Abbott asked the Texas Education Agency to establish a teacher vacancy task force. Texas has over 371,000 teachers in the state. In the most recent Charles Butt Texas Teachers statewide poll, 78% of teachers said they were considering leaving the profession, a 20% increase from just 4 years ago. In addition, a recent report shows over a third of our new teachers coming into our public schools are uncertified. One of the top priorities for the next legislative session should be how our schools attract, retain, and train our Texas teacher workforce. What do you think is the largest obstacle for schools in attracting and retaining our teachers? Could it be pay, workplace culture, upward emphasis on state testing? What can be done at the state level to fix some of these pressing issues?
I'm going to keep going back to funding because, like I said, I think it trickles down. I mean, you have your and ensuring that there's local control over that funding that you have and being able to make decisions around that. I think that's critical. But you look at, I think that survey said 70+% feel like they lack adequate pay, and that's a contributing factor. But also that's compounded by healthcare costs. And I know us as a family, last week, we were having to choose our new health plan for the year because we're attached to the ISD, and we're looking like, wow, this is really increasing our bottom line as well. So we may get a pay raise, but also the healthcare costs start eating you alive. So it's all of those other additional benefits, and you think about how do we get value. But with all of the budget cuts, like I keep saying, it has larger impacts that stress out the teachers, classroom sizes, less resources, less supports, all those sorts of things where you don't feel valued or you just feel left out. And that culture is so important. And that's why I keep saying it goes back to this funding, and it also goes back to the flexibility of the local control and how they want to implement a lot of that because they know the culture of their community and of their workplace. And having your leave, right? I think the ability to take your leave is good, but also do they have the substitute teachers and those sorts of things? And that goes back to finances again. Are you able to adequately recruit because you have the finances and able to get that? I'm going to talk money, and that's what it's going to be right now. And I think that's what it comes down to.
Thank you. School safety is one of the biggest priorities to our schools. During the 88th regular legislative session, House Bill 2, which required at least one armed security officer to be present during regular school hours at each district campus, provided a funding provision that increased the existing allotment from $9.72 per student to $10 per student and provided an additional $15,000 per campus. Have you talked with your school districts or campus principals about how this new provision is being implemented and what else needs to be done to help our schools be safe?
Yes, I've talked with some of y'all, and I've seen it at my own kids' school, and it's another one of those underfunded mandates, right? But then our legislators like to say, look how much more money we gave you this year, and it's like gaslighting at its best. And so we know that, let's also talk about what is safety, and how much the school has had to take on, all of the different roles and the responsibilities that you have had to take on in just the past 5 years. Let's think about that. And it's because y'all are such a critical role in the community. And so it's not just about physical safety, it's about, mental safety, belonging, all of those sorts of things, because kids come into your school and they're not safe at home. And so what resources do you have in order to make sure that they feel safe in your classroom? Mentally, do they have food in their belly, right? There's so many other things to think about that y'all are more equipped to deal with, right? Than being able to equip a teacher with a gun or purchase all of this other equipment, like police cars and all of that you're not adequately funded for, or you have quite a learning curve for, right? So I believe in the power of community, that everybody knows and has their special ability and talent to do things, and I think school has a very good place in safety and just understanding what that place is and everybody else's role in it.
Hey, let's turn to assessment and accountability. There has been a lot of discussion about the overemphasis on tests in recent years. Our current 8 through F accountability system is entirely based on STAR to rate our schools at the elementary and middle school levels. The Travis County District Court is still deciding whether or not to allow TEA to move forward on new college, career, military readiness schools, which have postponed the 8 through F ratings for the last 2 school years. Should our accountability system be so dependent on the STAR or any standardized test? And what changes do you believe are necessary to improve the current school accountability system, particularly standardized testing, so that it more accurately reflects student learning and growth?
My kid requested that my first bill be to abolish the STAR. He's 11 years old. He has special education needs, and it really is a fear for him, right? It's a challenge for him to take a high stakes test, and teaching to the test is a challenge. But not only that, but what are we really learning about the school's performance and the child's performance? Because that's just a little portion of what all happens in a school during the day, right? So, at most like 50% of like a testing, and it only pipes you at one point in time. So I think I would be more apt or would advocate for a more comprehensive look at how a student, how a school is doing, and being able to look at that data over time. And just like with anything else, and data-driven perspective looks at not just, grading you on that, but what are you going to do as a result of that? It has to be more timely, plan, do, study, act, so that you can actually act on that data in a timely manner, because that's what you are supposed to do with data, is use it in a positive way.
Do you believe standardized testing narrows the curriculum and limits a teacher's ability to focus on critical thinking and creativity?
Yes, I do believe it does. My kids come home with the homework that just says STAR readiness at the very top, right? And that's like what they have to do. And I think about when I grew up, I was making volcanoes at home, And, I think, yes, there are core things that you do need to learn, but I also believe that project-based learning is very good, right? There's different ways of learning and different ways of doing things, and I think that's also why we have the profession of teachers, and it's a very noble profession, and it's a skill. And so standardized testing, I think you can't teach that creative thinking with it. There's just so much more beyond knowing how to take a test.
Thank you. Now let's focus on school funding and the state budget. There are 2 questions on this topic. The legislature once held the state funding levels for schools without any increase to the basic allotment or foundational operating fundings since 2019. Double-digit inflation over the past 4 years has placed pressure on our schools. In addition, last school year, federal stimulus funding ran out, making it the perfect storm for schools trying to continue student achievement growth through state-mandated accelerating instruction programs and high-dosage tutoring. Meanwhile, the state currently has a budget surplus of at least $21 billion, with an additional $23 billion in the rainy day fund. Question 7 is, have you talked to your school districts about what they are doing with their federal stimulus funds? And if so, how are they using those funds to address learning loss? And what are your schools going to do once the stimulus funds run out? By the way, 3 questions.
That's okay. Yeah. I mean, I think we talked about this in the spring, like what they were doing with the money at that point and how they were planning for it for this particular school year. And I think we are seeing the results of that, or I am certainly seeing the results of that within our district, because technology positions that we had before are being reallocated to open positions. So that was something that they had invested in, was technology to help through the pandemic and those sorts of things. And now with those funds going away, determining what to do with those particular staff. And I think I have said this before, but COVID isn't over. Meaning we are seeing that our kids that in the elementary ages, when they went through COVID, they're not at the same level as their other peers when it comes to math. And so it's not like, boom, we're done and we're ready. It's, yeah, we're still dealing with the effects of COVID, and that we need that money. We need that money to be able to still deal with what you would call COVID effects. Yeah, so it's a major contributing factor to a lot of the cuts that have had to be decided on, and the shuffling of staff resources and those sorts of things that we've had in districts.
Schools would need the basic allotment to increase by $1,300 per student simply to maintain their purchasing power from 2019. What are your funding priorities for public education next year?
So increased state funding, right, which would also include the teacher pay raises, and then implementing the annual adjustments to basic allotments. Because like I said, it shouldn't be pinned on the political whim or which way the wind blows, whether we're Republican or Democrat or whatever is happening. So being able to pin to that, and then looking at closing our special education gap is certainly a major issue of funding that we need to be looking at this session.
The next topic for tonight is pre-kindergarten education. During the 85th legislative session in 2019, Texas made great strides to increase funding for pre-kindergarten instruction, but it still only funds pre-kindergarten students on a half-day basis. Would you support fully funding her current pre-kindergarten formulas that currently only provide half-day funding for eligible students?
Yes. Yeah, I fully support this. Investing in early education is smart for Texas. It's smart for the future of our kids. It pays off later on, and not even later on. It pays off when they go into kindergarten. It saves us money later on. And so, yeah, it's a very smart investment, and based off of average daily attendance, right? So yeah, I would fully support it.
Thank you. Would you support expanding enrollment to a larger population of students to participate in full-day pre-K? Currently, eligibility is restricted to 3 or 4-year-olds that are unable to speak English language, or those students that qualify for free and reduced lunch, as well as homeless and children and military personnel. would you support?
Oh yeah, I would support expanding the income cap on that, and and of course with teachers and employees, I think this goes just like, yeah, raise the cap. But I think this also helps with some of the other issues that we're seeing in our community. Is there's a huge childcare gap, right? And so this is really helpful in addressing that issue that we're seeing, especially in our rural communities. It's a win-win in many levels, and I certainly would increase that cap and make it accessible to workforce.
Thank you. Let's look at college and career readiness now. How can the legislature help prepare students for post-high school success, whether that's through college, vocational training, or immediate entry into the workforce? Do you believe the state should incentivize or increase funding for the Career and Technical Education or CTE program?
Yes, so I think if a school district wants to do that, and the resources should be made available so that they can do that. And, to the point where it makes sense for their community. Again, I believe in local control and what locally makes sense for folks and what programs make sense for them as well. And so, I would support that and at the discretion of the local board and local school district.
Right. This concludes the forum question, and we will now move to closing remarks. Jennie will have 2 minutes for closing remarks.
Thank you all. Sorry. I think maybe while I was talking, you could hear some very consistent themes. Hopefully you did, and that is, I respect public education immensely, and that it is critical to our communities. It's critical to our students. It's critical to our workforce, right? Our economy. And I respect our teachers and our employees here. But also, I truly believe that the closer you are to the problem, the better you are to solve it, right? And that's why I keep saying, the school boards are so important, right? Because they're so close to the community, and the community has the ability to voice their concerns there. And so I never want to usurp that either. And so my intention is to be a partner with our local school districts, to be a partner with parents, to be a partner with students, so that I'm not just a politician that doesn't represent the community, because that's truly is what I am. I would be your representative, and that's very important to me. So you do have a choice, which is great this year. You have a choice. You have a choice for me, who's ready to make change, right? Who's ready to be representative, and will listen to you. And I feel like I understand what's happening. And if I don't understand, I will do everything I can to listen to you and try to understand. And then your other choice, you've seen for the past 2 years. And we see where we are right now. And we're at a very painful point with our schools. And we can't continue down that road. I know our family can't. So I hope that you'll choose me and we can move forward. Thanks.
This concludes talking at forum. Let's go from relative to the college and the looking state like you. And at this time, we'll finish our program with a few words from Mario with Racial Union Texas.
Thank you, Heather, for serving as our moderator. Can we give her one more round of applause? I also want to show tremendous gratitude for some of our volunteers that we had tonight, to the candidate for showing up and telling us a little bit about her platform. And of course, thank you to Taylor ISD for allowing us to use this beautiful building to host this candidate forum tonight. And then I just want to remind everybody that we have 5.4 million students in our Texas public schools. 10% of public school students in the United States are here in Texas. So that's why it's so important for us to have the strongest schools. And of course, please remember to go vote. Early voting has already started. You can find that information online. And we will have our election day on November 5th. We have some voter pledge cards up here that I'll have for you. If you haven't already made a plan to vote, please think about how you're going to get there, who you're going to go with, what time of day, because all of that really makes a difference on whether or not someone's going to make it out to vote or not. Other than that, I appreciate you guys coming out tonight. Once again, thank you so much, and we will see you at our next candidate forum.